Let me be very clear with you right now. If you're sitting on a pile of cash in 2026 thinking you're being smart, thinking you're being safe, thinking you're protecting yourself from the chaos in the markets, you're not safe. You're getting destroyed. And the worst part, you don't even know it's happening. You're watching your wealth evaporate in real time and you think you're winning because your bank account number looks the same. That's the illusion. That's the trap. And if you don't understand what I'm about to tell you in the next 30 minutes, you're going to wake up 5 years from now wondering where your purchasing power went. Here's the brutal truth most people won't like hearing. Cash is not king anymore. Cash is a melting ice cube. Every single day you hold it, it loses value. Every single month, inflation eats away at what it can actually buy. You think you have $50,000 saved up? You don't. Not in real terms. What that $50,000 can buy today is not what it could buy 2 years ago, and it's definitely not what it'll buy 2 years from now. But your bank statement still says $50,000, so you feel safe. You feel like you're doing the right thing. You're not. You're doing exactly what the system wants you to do. Stay quiet, stay still, stay poor. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Kevin, the economy is uncertain. The stock market is volatile. Real estate is overpriced. Bonds aren't paying anything. Where am I supposed to put my money? I get it. I hear you. But here's the problem with that mindset. You're so afraid of making the wrong move that you're making the worst move possible. You're making no move at all. And in this environment, in this economy, doing nothing is the most expensive decision you can make. Let me say that again. Doing nothing costs you more than doing something wrong, because at least when you make a mistake in the market, you learn, you adjust, you move forward. But when you sit on cash, you just lose. Slowly, silently, guaranteed. Most people won't like hearing this, but your savings account is a wealth destruction machine. It's not protecting you, it's bleeding you dry. The average savings account in America pays what? 0.5% interest? Maybe 1% if you're lucky? Meanwhile, inflation, real inflation, not the cooked numbers the government feeds you, is running at 4, 5, 6% or higher, depending on what you're actually buying. Do the math. You're losing 3 to 5% of your purchasing power every single year. That's not safety. That's financial suicide in slow motion. And the banks, they love it. They're taking your deposits, lending them out at 8, 10, 12% and giving you crumbs. You're funding their profit while your wealth disappears. Here's what really gets me. People think they're being conservative by holding cash. They think they're being responsible. They've been conditioned to believe that cash equals security. And maybe 30 years ago that was true. Maybe when inflation was 2% and savings accounts paid 4 or 5%, holding cash made sense. But that world is gone. It's dead. And if you're still operating like it's 1995, you're going to get crushed. The rules have changed. The game has changed. And if you don't change with it, you lose. It's that simple. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at what your money buys? Not what the number says in your account, but what it actually purchases in the real world. A cart of groceries that cost you $100 3 years ago now costs $140. A tank of gas, a decent meal at a restaurant, your insurance premiums, your utility bills, everything costs more. Everything. And it's not stopping, it's accelerating. So when you park your money in cash, you're not preserving it. You're watching it lose the ability to provide for you. You're watching your future lifestyle downgrade while your present feels stable. That's the con. And here's the part that should scare you. The people who understand this, the people who know how money really works, they're not holding cash. They're moving, they're investing, they're buying assets, they're putting their money to work. Meanwhile, the average person, the person who's been told to save, 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 is sitting there like a deer in headlights watching their wealth get picked apart. This is how the wealth gap grows. This is how the rich get richer and the middle class gets squeezed. It's not some conspiracy, it's just math. It's just knowing the rules of the game. So here's what we're going to do. Over the next 3 sections, I'm going to break down exactly why cash is dangerous, what inflation is really doing to your money, where you should actually be putting your wealth, and how to protect yourself in this environment. Because if you don't understand this, if you don't make changes now, you're going to regret it. This is not fear-mongering. This is reality. And reality doesn't care about your feelings. Watch till the end, because this could change how you protect your money. This could be the difference between building wealth and losing it without even knowing. Now let's talk about what's really happening to your money, because most people have no idea how the game is actually rigged against them. They see the word inflation on the news, they hear the Federal Reserve talk about interest rates, and they think it's all some abstract economic concept that doesn't really affect them. Wrong, dead wrong. Inflation is the silent killer of your wealth. And if you're holding cash right now, you're standing in the middle of the battlefield with no armor on. You're exposed, you're vulnerable, and you're about to take hits you didn't even see coming. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Here's what your financial advisor probably won't explain to you because it doesn't benefit them. Inflation is a tax. It's a hidden tax that you pay every single day without even realizing it. When the government prints money, when they inject trillions into the economy, when they run massive deficits year after year, that money has to come from somewhere. And it comes from you. It comes from the value of every dollar you're holding. They dilute the currency, they expand the money supply, and your purchasing power shrinks. It's wealth confiscation without calling it a tax, and the people holding cash get hit the hardest. Let me break this down in terms you can actually feel. Let's say you worked hard, you saved up $100,000. Good for you. That took discipline. That took sacrifice. But if you stick that $100,000 in a savings account, earning 1% while inflation runs at 5%, you're losing $4,000 a year in real purchasing power. $4,000 gone, vanished, and you didn't spend a dime. You didn't make a bad investment. You just sat there. You did what you were told was the safe thing, and you got robbed. 4 years of that, and you've lost $16,000 in value. But your statement still says 100,000, so you think you're fine. You're not fine. You're bleeding out. And here's the kicker. The official inflation numbers, the CPI that the government reports, that's a joke. It's manipulated. It's cherry-picked. It doesn't reflect what you're actually experiencing in your day-to-day life. They take out food and energy costs when it's convenient. They use substitution methods that assume if steak gets too expensive, you'll just buy chicken instead. They play statistical games to make the numbers look better than reality. Real inflation, the inflation you feel when you pay your bills, when you buy groceries, when you fill up your car, when you pay rent or property taxes, that's running way higher than what they're telling you. And if you're making financial decisions based on their cooked numbers, you're making decisions based on lies. Most people won't like hearing this, but the system is designed to punish savers and reward debtors. Think about it. If you borrow money at a fixed rate and inflation runs hot, that debt becomes cheaper over time. You're paying it back with devalued dollars. But if you save money and inflation runs hot, your savings become worth less. The purchasing power drops. So the guy who took out a mortgage, who financed his business, who leveraged his assets, he's winning. And the person who did the responsible thing, who saved cash, who stayed out of debt, they're losing. The system is backwards. And if you don't understand that, you're playing a game where the rules are designed for you to fail. Now here's where it gets even more dangerous. A lot of people think they can just wait this out. They think inflation is temporary, they think it'll come back down, and everything will go back to normal. Let me be clear, this is not temporary. This is structural. This is the result of decades of monetary policy, of deficit spending, of kicking the can down the road. You can't print trillions of dollars and expect there to be no consequences. You can't run the printing presses hot for years and think it'll just disappear. It doesn't work that way. The inflation we're seeing now is baked into the system. And even if the headline numbers come down a little bit, even if the Federal Reserve claims victory, the damage is already done. Prices don't go back down. They just stop rising as fast. Your cost of living is already reset higher, and that's permanent. So what does this mean for you? It means holding cash is like holding a bag of ice in the desert. Every hour that passes, it gets smaller. Every day, it melts a little more. And you can't stop it. You can't freeze it. You can't preserve it. The only thing you can do is move it into something that holds value, something that keeps pace with or beats inflation, something that actually works for you instead of against you. And we're going to get into exactly what those things are in the next section. But first, you need to accept this reality. You need to understand that the old playbook is obsolete. Your grandfather's advice to keep 6 months of expenses in cash, That made sense when inflation was low and interest rates were positive in real terms. That world is gone. Here's the reality check. If you're middle class, if you're working hard, trying to build wealth, trying to secure your retirement, trying to give your family a better life, you cannot afford to make this mistake. You don't have generational wealth to fall back on. You don't have trust funds. You don't have family money. Every dollar matters. Every decision counts. And parking your money in cash while inflation eats it alive is a decision that will cost you your future. It will cost you your retirement. It will cost you your security. And by the time you realize it, it'll be too late to make up the ground you lost. That's not me trying to scare you. That's me giving you the truth that nobody else will. You know what separates people who build wealth from people who stay broke? It's not income. It's not luck. It's understanding how money actually works. It's knowing that in an inflationary environment, cash is trash. It's knowing that you have to put your money to work or it dies. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They don't hoard cash. They move it. They deploy it. They buy assets that appreciate, that generate income, that protect against inflation. And if you want to build real wealth, if you want to actually get ahead instead of just treading water, you need to start thinking like they do. You need to stop being a victim of the system and start playing the game the way it's actually designed. So now you understand the problem. You understand that cash is getting destroyed. You understand that inflation is robbing you blind. Now comes the hard part. What do you actually do about it? Because knowing you have a problem and fixing the problem are two completely different things. And this is where most people freeze up. This is where they get paralyzed by fear and end up doing nothing. And I'm telling you right now, if that's you, if you're sitting there thinking this all sounds scary, so I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, you've already lost. You need to move. You need to act. You need to get your money out of cash and into assets that actually preserve and grow wealth. Let me be clear. I'm not telling you to go gamble. I'm not telling you to throw your life savings into some speculative nonsense or chase the latest crypto hype or buy stocks you don't understand. That's not what this is about. This is about intelligent deployment of capital. This is about putting your money where it has a fighting chance to keep up with or beat inflation. And there are proven, time-tested ways to do that. Real estate, dividend-paying stocks, index funds, commodities, precious metals, assets that have intrinsic value, assets that can't be printed into oblivion by a central bank, assets that people will always need and always want. Here's what real estate does that cash can't. It appreciates over time. It generates income through rent. It gives you leverage, meaning you can control a valuable asset with a fraction of the total cost financed by a bank. And here's the beautiful part. When inflation runs hot, real estate wins on multiple fronts. The value of the property goes up. The rent you can charge goes up. But your mortgage payment, if it's fixed, stays the same. You're paying back the bank with cheaper dollars while your asset grows in value and generates more cash flow. That's how you beat inflation. That's how you build wealth. But if you're sitting on cash, waiting for the perfect time to buy, waiting for prices to crash, waiting for some imaginary opportunity, you're missing it. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Kevin, real estate is expensive. I can't afford it. Interest rates are high. It's not a good time. Let me tell you something. There's never a perfect time. There's never a moment where everything lines up exactly how you want it. Successful people don't wait for perfect conditions. They make moves based on the conditions that exist. And right now, even with higher interest rates, owning real estate is better than watching cash evaporate. You can refinance later when rates drop. You can't get back the purchasing power you're losing today. And if you can't afford a full property, there are ARETs, real estate investment trusts, where you can own shares of real estate portfolios. The point is to own assets, not currency. Let's talk about stocks. And I don't mean day trading. I don't mean trying to get rich quick. I mean owning pieces of real businesses that produce real products and real profits. When you own stocks in solid companies, companies with strong balance sheets, companies that dominate their industries, you own a piece of the productive economy. And the productive economy grows. It innovates. It adapts. It survives inflation because companies raise prices. They pass costs on to consumers. Your cash can't do that. Your cash just sits there and loses value. But a company, a real business, it adjusts. And if you own shares in that business, you benefit from that adjustment. Most people won't like hearing this, but if you're not invested in the stock market in some form, you're financially illiterate. I don't care if you had a bad experience once. I don't care if you lost money in 2008 or during COVID. That's because you panicked. That's because you didn't understand what you owned. The people who stayed invested, who kept buying through the crashes, who understood that markets recover, they're wealthy now. They built fortunes. And the people who ran to cash, who stayed in cash, who are still in cash waiting for safety, they're broke. They're getting poorer every single year, and they don't even realize it because their account balance looks stable. Here's the strategy that works. Diversification. You don't put everything in one place. You spread it out. You own real estate. You own stocks. You own some bonds, maybe for stability. You own a little gold or silver as insurance against complete currency collapse. You build a portfolio of assets that work together, that protect you from different scenarios, that give you exposure to growth while managing risk. And you dollar cost average. You invest consistently over time, regardless of what the market is doing. That removes emotion. That removes the temptation to time things perfectly. You just keep putting money to work month after month, year after year, and you let compound growth do its thing. But here's what you absolutely cannot do. You cannot sit in cash hoping to avoid risk, because that's not avoiding risk. That's guaranteeing loss. That's choosing the one option that is mathematically certain to destroy your wealth over time. And if you think you're going to time the market perfectly, if you think you're going to wait for the crash and then buy everything at the bottom, you're delusional. Nobody does that successfully, not consistently. The professionals with billion-dollar research teams can't do it. What makes you think you can? You can't. So stop trying, stop waiting, stop letting fear paralyze you into making the worst possible choice. Let me ask you something. What's your plan? If you're sitting on cash right now, what's your actual strategy? When are you going to move? What signal are you waiting for? What magical moment do you think is coming that's going to make everything clear? I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to keep waiting. You're going to keep watching. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to look back and realize you missed everything. You missed the growth. You missed the opportunity, and you lost purchasing power the entire time. That's the cost of inaction. That's the price of fear, and it's expensive. Here's the bottom line. Your money needs to work. It needs to be deployed. It needs to be in assets that have a chance to preserve and grow value in an inflationary world. Cash doesn't do that. Cash is a tool for transactions and short-term liquidity. That's it. You need enough cash to cover emergencies, to handle your monthly expenses, maybe 3 to 6 months worth. Everything else needs to be invested. Everything else needs to be working for you. And if you're not doing that, if you're hoarding cash because it feels safe, you're not safe. You're exposed. You're vulnerable. And the clock is ticking. So here's where we are. You now understand that cash is being destroyed by inflation. You understand that sitting on the sidelines is the most expensive decision you can make. You understand what assets actually protect wealth. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Because understanding means nothing without action. Knowledge without execution is worthless. And I need you to be honest with yourself right now. Are you actually going to make changes, or are you going to watch this video, nod your head, feel good for a few minutes, and then go right back to doing exactly what you've been doing? Because if it's the latter, you're wasting my time and yours. Let me be clear about something. The next 12 months are critical. The decisions you make right now, the actions you take in the next few weeks and months, they're going to determine where you are financially 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you retire. This is not abstract. This is not theoretical. This is your life. This is your family's security. This is whether you retire comfortably or struggle. This is whether you build generational wealth or stay trapped in the rat race forever. And the difference between those outcomes comes down to whether you move or whether you freeze. Here's what I want you to do. First, Calculate how much cash you're actually holding right now. Add up your checking account, your savings account, any money market funds, any cash just sitting there doing nothing. Write down that number. Now calculate what that money is losing to inflation. If you've got $50,000 in cash and inflation is running at 5%, you're losing $2,500 a year in purchasing power. If you've got $100,000, you're losing $5,000 a year. Every year, compounding. That's real money. That's money you worked hard for, and it's evaporating while you sleep. Does that make you angry? It should, because it's completely preventable. Next, decide what you actually need in cash. And I mean really need, not what feels comfortable, not what you're used to. What you actually need for emergencies and short-term expenses. For most people, that's 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Let's say your monthly expenses are $5,000. You need $15,000 to $30,000 in cash. That's your emergency fund. That's your liquidity. Everything beyond that, every dollar beyond that safety net needs to be deployed into assets immediately, not next month, not when you feel ready, now. Because every day you wait is another day of loss you can never get back. Most people won't like hearing this, but you don't need permission to start investing. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need perfect knowledge. You just need to start. Open a brokerage account if you don't have one. It takes 15 minutes. Put money into a low-cost index fund that tracks the S&P 500 or the total stock market. That's it. That's the starting point. You now own a piece of the American economy. You own hundreds of companies. You're diversified, you're invested, and you're no longer just sitting there letting inflation destroy you. Is it perfect? No. Will you learn more as you go? Absolutely. But you're in the game. You're moving, and movement beats paralysis every single time. If you want to get into real estate but can't afford a property, buy shares in a REIT. If you want exposure to commodities, buy an ETF that holds gold, silver, oil, agricultural products. If you want income, buy dividend-paying stocks or bond funds. There are options for every situation, every budget, every risk tolerance. The tools exist, the opportunities exist. What's missing is your willingness to act. What's missing is your ability to overcome fear and take control of your financial future. And if you can't do that, if you can't make that decision, then you've already decided. You've decided to lose. You've decided to be a victim. And that's on you. Here's the brutal truth. The system doesn't care about you. The government doesn't care if you build wealth or stay poor. The Federal Reserve isn't sitting around worried about your purchasing power. The banks aren't losing sleep over whether you understand inflation. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to protect your money for you. This is your responsibility. This is your job. And if you don't take it seriously, if you don't educate yourself and make smart decisions and take action, you will get left behind. You will struggle. You will watch other people build wealth while you wonder what happened. And it'll be because you chose comfort over growth. You chose fear over opportunity. You chose to hold cash while the world moved on without you. Let me tell you what happens to people who don't adapt. I've seen it 1,000 times. They work hard their whole lives. They save money diligently. They think they're doing everything right. And then they hit 60, 65, 70 years old, and they realize their money doesn't go as far as they thought it would. Their retirement savings that looked comfortable 20 years ago now barely covers their expenses. They can't afford the lifestyle they imagined. They can't help their kids or grandkids. They become a burden instead of a blessing. And they sit there wondering what went wrong. What went wrong was they didn't understand inflation. They didn't understand that saving cash and doing nothing is a losing strategy. They played it safe and lost everything anyway. You don't have to be that person. You can make different choices. You can educate yourself. You can take action. You can build a portfolio of assets that protect and grow your wealth. You can set yourself up for a retirement where you have options, where you have freedom, where you're not stressed about money every single day. But it requires you to change. It requires you to get uncomfortable. It requires you to stop making excuses and start making moves. And the time to do that is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, now. Here's my challenge to you. If this video made sense, if you understand what I've been telling you for the last 30 minutes, prove it. Prove it by taking action. Go open that brokerage account. Go talk to a real estate agent. Go meet with a financial advisor who actually understands assets and inflation. Go do something today that moves you forward, and then come back and tell me about it in the comments. Tell me what action you took. Tell me what you're investing in. Tell me how you're protecting your wealth, because that's how we build a community of people who actually understand money, who actually build wealth, who don't just sit around complaining about the system, but learn how to win within it. And if you found this valuable, if this changed how you think about cash and inflation and investing, then like this video. Subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep bringing you the hard truths that nobody else will tell you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a family member who's sitting on too much cash. Share it with a friend who's scared to invest. Share it with anyone who needs a reality check about what's really happening to their money. This information could literally change someone's life. It could be the difference between them building wealth or losing it. So spread it. Get it out there. And if you're serious about your financial future, if you want to actually protect yourself and build real wealth, you'll stay on this channel. You'll keep learning. You'll keep taking action, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is about building habits and strategies that work over decades, not days. If you ignore this, if you go back to holding cash and doing nothing, that's on you. But if you take this seriously, if you make the changes we talked about, you're going to look back years from now and realize this was the turning point. This was when you stopped being a victim and started being a winner. The choice is yours. Make it count.